You're listening to Clearview Today with Dr. Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Ryan Hill.
I'm John Galantis.
And you can find us online at clearviewtodayshow.com. Or if you have any questions for Dr. Shah or suggestions for new topics, send us a text at 252-582-5028. Or you can email us at contact@clearviewtodayshow.com.
That's right. We want you guys to help us keep the conversation moving forward. You can do that by supporting the show. You can share it online with your friends and your family. Leave us a good 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Absolutely nothing less than 5 stars. Link is in the description below. And we are here with our host, Dr. Shah, who is a PhD in New Testament textual criticism, professor at Carolina University, author, full-time pastor, and the host of today's show. Dr. Shah, welcome.
Thank you.
Happy
it's good to be here. Good to be here. Thank you.
This is your welcome Wednesday, my friend.
Welcome
Thank you.
Wednesday.
I like that.
Our verse of the day today is coming to us from Ephesians chapter 2. I'm going to include verses 4 and 5 because it's like a one full thought. But God, who is rich in mercy because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved.
I love that. That is one of my favorites in the entire Bible, that favorite verses. Because I remember in Ephesians 2, he starts out saying you were dead in your trespasses, you were dead, you were this, you were lost, you were hopeless. And then in verse 4, but God in his great mercy. And it's so funny, Dr. Shah, we were just talking about this before we started. There are people out there who believe that grace through faith was only for the Ephesians. It was only for them, right? Like they were the only ones and everyone else is saved differently.
I had not heard of that before that conversation.
Yeah, same. But then I love where Paul says it's because of his great love for us, with which he loved us. You know what I mean? Not just he loved you guys, but he loved all us, like all of humanity.
That's right.
Right.
And you know, you were just discussing with me about this person who takes that passage and he twists it to support his twisted theology.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What is the point of even having that kind of thing? Like, I don't see what you gain. I guess there's a lot of like I see a lot of people who will twist up theology, and it's like, oh, I'm going to twist theology to get money from people.
Or to justify my bad behavior.
Or to manipulate people into joining my church. Like, I get that when you gain something, but just having bad theology for the sake of it, you don't seem to be gaining anything. You're just holding on to this outdated view of who God is, and you end up the worse for it.
Well, I think some people thrive on a controversy life. So if I can be controversial, if I can just be outlandish, different, shocking, then I will get some following, I'll get some likes on social media. I may have 2 or 3 people kind of like me in personality who like to be not really outliers, but they are just, off the grid kind of people.
Everybody loves a contrarian.
Yeah, and they want to mess with your head.
Right.
Let me mess with your head a little bit. Let me share with you something.
I want to blow your mind here.
I want to blow your mind here, and kind of shake you up a little bit. You know what I mean? And if that's all you want to do, by the way, you get only one shot at life.
Right.
And that's how you're gonna live it.
Right.
Like
This is your one go round.
I can sort of relate to that because I liked doing that like in my 20s. You know what I mean? When you in your 20s, like you're not a teenager anymore. You like to pretend like you're smart and you've got things figured out. So you like to blow people's minds. By the time you hit 30, you're like, man, that was exhausting.
Yeah.
I exhausted everyone around me, and I exhausted me.
Yeah, and you didn't gain much. No. There's no accomplishment other than, I mean, again, I know we're laughing about this, but you get only one shot at life.
Right.
And this is how you're going to live it. Now, if I had like several, you get 5 chances. Even if you get 3 chances, one, go off the deep end.
Yeah, just do what you want to do.
Yeah. Another one, just stay off the grid and just be a hermit, just live that life. The third one, man, get the thing right.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
You don't get that.
You
don't get only one shot.
That's right.
And you're gonna live it like that.
Speaking of doing things that you've always wanted to do with your life, or only getting one, you got to make your time count. I have an announcement. This is something I've been really wanting for. I am now a multilingual man.
Oh,
I now speak at least 3 languages.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Maybe 4.
Maybe 4.
Maybe 4.
Definitely fluent in the King's English, right?
Sure.
I wouldn't say it's the King's English.
Yeah, I don't think it's the King's.
I think it's the colonist English.
That's exactly right.
Spanish.
Oh.
Hindi. And Hebrew.
Well, look at you.
I thought Greek would be a little bit.
Oh, Greek. Oh, 5.
Greek.
5. 5 languages. I downloaded Duolingo.
Yeah.
And so I did it.
Let's just go with your name. Your name right there you have one lange.
Right.
Galantis is Greek.
Galandis, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
What does that mean?
I got no clue. No, that's my grandpa's name. No, I downloaded Duolingo. And
it's an app.
It's an app. Yeah, it's an app that teaches you how to learn different languages. They got tons of languages on there. I wanted to learn Hebrew, and I wanted to learn Hindi, like just so if we're
the
around.
language I grew up speaking.
Yeah, you and your sister. And so now that she's living here, sometimes she would teach me Hindi words and stuff like that. But I always just found it fascinating. Like people who this is not a joke. I was joking before. I'm just barely learning these languages. But I've always found it fascinating, people who can speak different languages.
Yeah.
To me, even if you're like, I don't know, just a guy, being able to do that with your brain, with your mind, to me, that's instant, like a respect boost.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I don't know what it is, but your mind can partition off words in different languages, and like you can think in one language and speak in another. To me, that's extremely foreign, and something I've always wanted to be able to do.
Yep.
So.
I heard someone say, be careful about making fun of somebody with an accent. They can speak another language.
Oh yeah,
Right.
And while you can speak only one.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a great point. They're already ahead of you, buddy.
Like there's a lot of times where you be hanging out with people who speak and they start speaking another language. You're like, I always feel like they're making fun of you. Like they are.
They're
100%.
They're
They would
100%,
not
yeah.
if they weren't making fun of you. They would just speak your language.
They can speak, think, write, read another language.
Yeah. So with Spanish, I started doing the Spanish course in Duolingo, and I got through the first chunk, which is just like forming basic sentences. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm getting the hang of this. I'm gonna try Hindi. Hindi doesn't use the same letters, so I had
the
to
script
start.
is very different.
I had to start, and it was like, all right, what is this letter? And it was the is the sound and it looked like a 3 with the letter T attached to it, and I was like,
That's a good way to look at it.
I don't know what that is. So I texted Dr. Shah. He was like, I was like, oh, okay. And so then we were doing it today, and there was a bunch more, and I was just making a lot of mistakes. It was just like, what letter is this? What sound is this? And I was like, geez, I don't know. And then I realized Duolingo doesn't teach you. It just tests. It just tests you, and if you get it wrong,
that's no good.
It'll tell you the right answer. So I guess you're just kind of memorizing it as you test.
Kind of like high-tech flashcards.
Sorta. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But it's a super. We're not sponsored by Duolingo, by the way. Maybe we should be.
Maybe we should be.
But
my kids have been on Duolingo.
It's fun.
I found that out like a couple weeks ago. Like Noah and Hartley with their school, they're on Duolingo, and
It's fun.
they're like taking courses in Spanish. They
It's
have
an
app on their tablets.
It's an app, and it's also a game. It's cool because they give you like hearts and diamonds and achievements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you can use it to purchase new modules. And I know this sounds like we're sponsored by them. We're not, but it is legitimately fun.
Yeah, I asked Hartley the other day. I was like, "What are you working on?" She had her tablet in front of her. I was like, "What are you doing right now?" She said, "I'm doing like Spanish for school." I was like,
Wow.
"What? You're playing video games?" She's like, "Yeah, this is Duolingo."
Yeah.
I was like,
That's
I didn't know you had
crazy.
Duolingo.
It is crazy. So the thing that I kind of found out last night, I was texting Dr. Shah the Hindi course. It's split over all your languages. So the more languages you take, you only still get like this many mistakes before it makes you stop. So, but it's kind of fun. Maybe we'll talk about this on another show, but we're doing big things as far as being a multilingual church goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we want to reach the world with the gospel of Christ, and we love English. That's who we are as American. We love English, but we also, at the same time, at one time, we were people who learned Latin and Greek and all of that, and somehow we dumbed down our educational system. And so, unless you are in a private school or a classical education school, you're not going to learn but English, and even that many times very poorly.
Right.
You barely.
So I thank God for President Trump because he cares about education.
Yeah, that's right.
And so hopefully the standard of education is going to go up, which means the American student, the boy or girl, will learn other languages and be a leader in the world, for goodness sake. That's right. We've been followers for so long over the past 2-3 decades, if not more. It's time the American student would be a leader. That's right. That when they are sitting around a table, the American is not the last one to catch on.
Right.
We should be the first one to be making connections and talk to you. Yeah, I know my language, but I also know yours. Let me talk to you about that. And what did you just say? No, I know what that means. Now, I don't think that, I don't understand that, but help me understand what you mean by that. You should be able to do that. And when you don't, it's not a sign of strength. It's a sign of a weakness that you cannot communicate.
That's right. You're being left out of the conversation.
That's right.
Right. So I think as the educational system is going to grow and rise once again, I don't know, it's going to take a long time, but at least the change is coming. Instead of teaching them, which gender they may be out of the 60 genders there are. I don't know how many.
Who knows? Yeah, I think that was the last count.
Yeah, I hope they will focus on education.
Right.
Reading, writing, arithmetic, learning languages.
Yeah. Things that our kids can use to make the world a better place.
And should be using.
And be leaders in the world for a change.
That's right. Well, guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with more Clearview Today.
Hey, Clearview Today family, thank you so much for tuning into the show. We're having a great time so far. Listen, if this show has been a source of encouragement and insight for you, we want to take a second and just ask you to consider supporting us financially. I know that might ruffle feathers a little bit, but think about it. You're listening to this show seemingly because you care about spreading the life-changing message of Jesus Christ to the world. Well, your giving allows us to continue sharing that message with other listeners just like you.
Your support is more than just encouragement to us. When you give, you're becoming our partner. You're joining with us to spread God's truth and love to a hurting world. And your gift is a reflection of your faith. And believe it or not, it's going to make an eternal impact in someone's life.
That's right. And giving to the show is insanely easy. All you do is visit our website, clearviewtodayshow.com, and you can click on that little button that says Give Today. We're so encouraged by everyone who's already giving to the show. And if today's your first time listening, we want to let you know that we appreciate your partnership, and we pray that God blesses you abundantly for your commitment to his work. All right, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back to Clearview Today with Dr. Abadan Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com, or if you have any questions or suggestions for new topics, send us a text to 252-582-5028.
That's right, Dr. Shah. We mentioned something earlier that a lot of people just like to live a contrarian life. They like to live a life that's shocking, a life that goes against the establishment, a life that looks at what's acceptable and what's normal around them and says, no, we're not going to do that. Even if I don't really believe this, I will pretend to believe it, or I'll say I believe it, or I'll act like I believe it, just to sort of get at you a little bit. And you know what's crazy? Ever since, I think it's been going on ever since, long before President Trump took office. But now that he's taken office, I feel like we're seeing it ramp up more and more and more, like as an act of defiance almost.
Yeah.
Talking especially about this homosexual agenda, this LGBTQ that, up till recently, I don't want to say it was absent from our community, but I don't think it was as prevalent as it is right now, like especially not publicly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I want to tell some people, you're so out of date. The world has realized we sort of went too far, and they're pedaling back.
Yeah.
And you are pedaling forward, so I don't know what newspaper you read, but you're not with it.
Yeah. Right.
They'll catch on. Give them a few more months. They'll catch on and be like, oh, well,
I thought this was still cool.
Yeah, that's why I thought it's not cool. It's not cool to be left anymore.
Right.
That's right.
No, it's not.
In the immortal words of the Black Eyed Peas, they're 2,000 and late.
Oh, Ryan, that was fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can we just Ryan Hill, everybody? Ryan Hill. I'm only keeping it going because this applause is so long.
Sure, it's a long time.
We did an episode on that, how the left is going out of style. It's no longer cool to be. It's no longer considered cool to be a left, and or be on the left. And I think people are going to stand on that. There's a lot of people who are making the switch over, the transition. But I think there's some people who are going to be like, it was never about being cool. It's about being correct. It's about being right. And I'm like, no, it was never about that.
No, you were going with what was in vogue at the time.
Yeah, this is just like a fad. It's coming in and coming out. Now, keep in mind, the whole idea or this lifestyle of homosexuality has been here, for a long time.
Right.
But the recent push to get you to approve this kind of thing, that has gone up and down throughout the history of this world. And unfortunately, we were in the up for the past few years, if not a decade.
Right.
And now, all of a sudden, it's going down, which I'm thanking God for.
Right.
Because we cannot survive as a country or as a people having sexual immorality as our, as the banner under which we march.
Right.
It's not going to work.
If you just look at it as a simple biology standpoint, if everyone like it seems like it makes so much sense.
Right.
If everyone was homosexual, then the human race would not survive. We would be gone within like what, one generation.
That's right.
And so you would. It seems to me like it would go without saying that this is not the design. Heterosexuality is the design, and going against the design, I guess there's multiple levels of whether or not it's acceptable depending on who you ask.
Right.
Like if you ask Christians, hopefully they would say No, of course that's not. That's morally unacceptable. And yet here lately, I've been very surprised by people who claim to be Christians,
Right.
people who claim to be even pastors, and they're saying, no, not only is this acceptable, it's good.
I think it's one of those examples of when you jostle somebody, what they truly believe and what they're truly like comes out. I have several Facebook friends, acquaintances that I've met at various points in my life who are in a homosexual lifestyle, and they on social media. Up until recently, they appeared to be just the nicest, kindest, sweetest people. Here's a picture of this, here's this and this. But when the election results came out and when President Trump took office, nothing but venom, nothing but hatred, just bashing, tearing people down. You're just disrespectful. I can't believe you would do this. And it's interesting to see, like, you who preach tolerance and you who say everyone should be accepted and everyone should be cared for, now how that tune has changed.
Right.
I think it even works the opposite way. Like I think you're exactly right, but it also can work the opposite way too, where people who really don't care that much about it, they just want to get like if you start pressing them, instead of coming back with actual solid arguments, they'll be like, look, if we want to engage in this a different way, you can tell like, oh, you have not really thought about this at all.
Yeah.
You probably wrote that with ChatGPT.
You don't really have a position.
Yeah, you probably wrote that long Facebook post because you knew it was going to get you. It wouldn't get you a lot, but you knew that it was going to get you some likes and some people being like, "Thank you for this."
And some did. Some did. We saw something like that in our community, and people came through, and they're coming from a liberal, unbiblical standpoint, and they may not agree with me on that. But my question to them would be, how much is the authority of the Word of God important to you? Do you believe that the Bible is the inspired and inerrant Word of God? And do you believe that it's the final word on life and morality and ethics and values? And if you say, no, it's not the final word, but it's an important word, then we're not on the same foundational basis.
We can't even begin a conversation.
No.
Right.
And to come down and talk to you and argue with you would be to step down from the authority of the Word of God and to say, okay, let's find another platform where we can agree on.
Right.
So not engaging this person in their ChatGPT support of homosexuality or transgender lifestyle, whatever else they're doing, is sexual immorality altogether.
Right.
It's not necessarily because we are afraid or we, are cowardly. No, to the contrary, we're saying you have a very different view of biblical authority.
Right.
Yeah.
And to engage with you in some way legitimizes your lack of biblical authority.
It does. I think it delegitimizes our stance on biblical authority in a big way, because if you engage with that person, you are forced to find another starting point other than the Word of God.
And if I'm standing on biblical authority, or if we are standing on biblical authority, and we now shift our starting point, it legitimizes the other position.
Because a lot of times, if you will, like I've seen this online a ton, where if a Christian is arguing with an atheist online, they'll say, well, you cannot use the Bible to support your claims because I don't believe that. So you have to find another starting point. It's like, okay, I'm allowing them to now frame
this debate.
What's stopping us from saying, okay, you have to use the Bible to prove your claims because I believe that.
Right.
I believe the Bible is true, so use the Bible to support atheism.
Well, I don't believe the Bible. That's what the response is. And many times Christians will step down and say, okay, well, then let me just argue with you based on life and natural life and childbirth and all that. And it's like, no, don't do that.
Right.
All those things are correct, but that person does not share your view. And that means they will never agree with you.
That's right. You have allowed them to frame the parameters of the debate, and you've abandoned your biggest tool, which is God's Word.
That's right.
So you're stepping away from the thing that's actually going to help you win that person to Jesus Christ, and now you're just arguing your own intelligence.
Yeah.
And I've made that mistake so many times, especially online, man, because you're like, okay, well, you got to meet people where they are, but I don't think that's what Jesus means when he says meet people where they are.
By the way, just talking about this person and what he wrote, David just texted me something that I thought that was very, it's worth hearing. What did you say, David?
So I literally just went on to my AI software that I use, and I said, write me an essay supporting homosexuality from the Bible, which we all know can't really happen. But I read the essay that it wrote me, and there's so many like word for word things from a similar post that we have read in the past, and it was crazy how word for word it is. Like the one that really got me is in the post. There was a part on re-examining the clobber passages, like the passages.
Does it ChatGPT even says that?
Re-examining clobber passages is a heading, and then it goes and it says the exact same thing. Like for instance, the Sodom story in Genesis 19 is often cited, but Ezekiel 16:49 clarifies that Sodom's sin was actually pride, excess of food, and it goes through that whole thing. It's the exact.
That's crazy.
It's the same. There's tons of people.
Exactly.
We did like when AI was new, we did an episode on it here on the where we were kind of speculating, and like now that a year or so, maybe a year and a half has passed, like you have started to learn it, and there's tons of people online who have not learned it. They don't know what it's like. Right. So when they see something like that, number one, they probably didn't even read all of it. No. But number two, they're so impressed by it. But if you work with ChatGPT, even for just like a couple of weeks, you start to see the patterns in its cadence. And so when we were reading that article, I was like, bro,
that's AI.
That's 100% ChatGPT, like not even edited. Yeah. I'm sure it was just copy and pasted.
The formatting is exactly what AI would spit back out at you.
But here's what I thought was interesting. And Dr. Shah, maybe you can speak on this too, because this actually affected you. There were tons of people who actually go to that church and who are part of that congregation who didn't like that. They were very against it. And
I wouldn't say there are not tons of people there anyways.
Right.
But several people, I would say. Several people.
Yeah. Instead of speaking out and saying, hey, I don't like this, they know you as a figurehead in the community. They see you. And I'm sure they know you on a personal level, but they come to you and say, hey, what should I think about this?
And they did. And I at first I didn't know what they were talking about because, I'm not on social media all the time. It may look like it, but it's really our team who is posting in my place. And they're posting information about church events and sermons. It's not me posting it all the time. But so when I went and read that, I asked you guys and said, what do y'all think? And immediately, I think you said, John, that this is written by ChatGPT. This is AI.
Someone said it as a joke. It might have been David or it might have been Adam, but then I started looking at it, I was like, no, that's true. Yeah. That is AI. Like somebody said it reads like ChatGPT, and then I read it and I was like, yeah, it is. It 100%, and it was.
Yeah.
So we got in the chat, and I left a comment that said, number one, this isn't biblical, and number two, this was written by ChatGPT. And so then
you got blocked.
I got blocked, yeah. But a lot of people came in behind me and was like, yeah, this does read like ChatGPT. Never once, like me, if I was in that situation and if I had written that and I started getting called out, I would at least lie and say, no, it wasn't. I wrote this. But no, he didn't.
No. Because it is the truth.
Yeah.
It is the truth, and he knows it. And to deny that, all we have to do is run it through the software, because we have a software. I teach in the university classes, so we have to run articles and essays through that software. And we can pick... we can see if it's 50% or 60% or only 10%. That if it's only 10%, then you go, okay, maybe it's this person is just maybe coincidence. In this situation, it was very close to.
It was like 95 to 100%, and you're not going to run that through the software and it still be original.
Yeah,
like at that point, you pretty much know.
There's no way that's a fluke. It's AI generated.
But I think that it is showing us that the agenda is not dead.
Right.
Just because Donald Trump has taken office and people are starting to come to a more conservative side of thinking, this agenda is far from dead. It's going to kick and it's going to scream and it's going to claw its way back into the hearts and minds of our people.
The American public is not a feather bird.
Right. What?
A feather bird?
It's a feather bird. It's a feather bird.
A feather bird. Is or is not a feather bird?
Featherhead.
Featherhead?
Featherhead.
Was that the secret word?
No.
Okay.
Neither is it a feather brain.
Feather brain. Feather brain sounds like it could be closer to what we're talking about here.
Feather brain.
Feather brain. We are not feather brain. We are people who can think. And I know for the past few years, the American public was so bombarded by secular media to think, this is the new world. Right. This is the woke world. This is the world in which we have to live by the rules set for us by the liberal left, and now we're saying no.
Right.
And one reason I think we should say no is because the Bible tells us to flee sexual immorality. Okay, in 1 Corinthians 6:18 it says, "Flee sexual immorality. Every sin that a man does is outside the body, but he who commits sexual immorality sins against his own body." Means there is a distinction between lying, cheating on your taxes, kind of thing, or murder and all that. This is against somebody else. Sexual immorality, you're only defiling your own self.
Right.
Of course, you're defiling someone else too, but you're also sinning against yourself. And homosexuality falls in this category of sexual immorality.
That's true.
And it's not just the Bible that says that, also secular world. In fact, a study was done by an Oxford, England, anthropologist back in 1934. The name is J.D. Unwin. And I read his work, actually, Sex and Culture, back like 15, 20 years ago. I came across that work in one of my ethics philosophy seminars. And I was like, wow, I need to read this, because the quote was quite amazing. And I went back and read the whole book. And what he did was, Unwin, he studied and analyzed the sexual behaviors of 86 cultures through 5,000 years of history. And in doing that, he came to the conclusion, and by the way, he was not a Christian. He was not a believer.
Wow.
But in doing this, he found this. Can I read the quote?
Yeah, please.
He found this. He said, "In human records, there is no instance of a society retaining its energy after a complete new generation has inherited a tradition which does not insist on prenuptial and postnuptial continence." I mean, what he was saying is, a society and a culture cannot survive if they don't maintain sexual purity. Either before marriage or after marriage. If they step out of the normal relationship between the man and the woman in the confines of the marriage, if they step out either before marriage or after marriage, whether it is the man going to some other woman or the woman going to some other man, or the man going to some other man and the woman going to some other woman, so homosexual, all that is included in this sexual immorality. He's saying that a society cannot exist.
That society is doomed once
It's
that
doomed.
behavior starts.
Absolutely.
Once the behavior starts and becomes widespread.
Yeah, and he says after studying I'm kind of sort of no, this is actually words. After studying the Romans, Greeks, Sumerians, Moors, Babylonians, Anglo-Saxons, and many others, listen to what he said. He said, the evidence is that in the past, a class has risen to a position of political dominance because of its great energy, and that at that period of its rising, its sexual regulations have always been strict. So when a culture, a civilization begins to rise, they're very clear on their sexual morality. Okay? But as they're rising up, they begin to loosen their grip on sexual immorality. And he says, this class that is rising, it has retained its energy and dominated the society so long as its sexual regulations have demanded both prenuptial and postnuptial contents. I know of no exception to these rules, means they have to be sexually pure.
So that's a great answer to when people say, why do you Christians even care? How does it affect you?
We care because society will fall apart.
Right. And they will take that as a very weird apocalyptic view to take, and yet the data speaks for itself.
Exactly.
The data is there.
It's Unwin, the guy who did this research.
He was no flibberty gibbet.
Flibberty gibbet. I don't feel like
I'm
it's
already
flibberty
out.
gibbet, but we've had featherbrain, flibberty gibbet, and bombard. I'm gonna buzz in on flibberty gibbet.
You
Flibberty
Was it
gibbet.
flibberty gibbet?
Yeah, he was not a silly, flighty person.
Oh, Unwin.
Yeah.
But he's not basing this on the Bible. He's not basing this on biblical morality. He's basing this on the
Like
past,
sociological
on what has
study.
happened in
Sociological
cultures.
study, exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
And the conclusion is, if we do not maintain sexual purity, means man and a woman in the confines of marriage having sexual relations, if we don't stick to that, we also will become nations on the trash heap of history.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what he's talking about. And then if you read Romans chapter 1, that's exactly what happens, right? The last step on the way down is not just sexual immorality, but it's homosexuality. And for any culture, society, community to try to celebrate this, I'm concerned.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm concerned
same.
because you're going to throw our community on the trash heap of history.
That's right.
So think before you do this.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Think about what you're doing.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys join us tomorrow, same time, same station. We're going to be diving into another great topic here on the Clearview Today Show. Thanks again to our sponsors for making today's episode possible. And don't forget that you can support us by subscribing to the show on iTunes if you want to re-listen. And you can always support us financially at clearviewtodayshow.com. John, anything you want to plug as we close
Yes,
today?
of course. You know, sexual purity is just one of the topics that Dr. Shah and Nicole cover in their book, 30 Days of Praying for America. These are daily devotions to heal our nations. This is actually book 3 of our 30-day series. Book 4 is coming very soon. We're going to have more news on that. Got to make sure you get our single, Great and Awesome, is available on iTunes and Spotify very, very soon. All of our original music is on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Rhapsody, anywhere digital music is streamed or sold.
That's right. Lots of great content coming your way. Make sure you guys tune in. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow on Clearview Today.